Hi everybody and welcome to the Granny Cat Ear Beanie. So just a couple of things from me before we begin. The tutorial is in US terms. You can use any yarn that you wish, any ply of yarn. You're going to be making it to your own head shape, okay? Or your model. If you've got someone you're making it for, then they are going to need to try it on. So I've gone for chunky yarn. And I've gone with a 7mm hook, but whatever you use is up to you. You can use DK, Aran, whatever. So let's do it. So the first thing that we need to do is make the ribbing. So you can make the ribbing as wide as you wish. So let's get a slip knot and place it on our hook. So you're going to make your chain length to how big you want your ribbon to be. I'm not really quite sure, I'm just going to eyeball it. So we're just going to keep making a chain until you feel happy with the width of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Do I like that? Do you know what, I might do one more. I'm going for a bit of a chunky one here. So I'm going for 9. I'm going to measure it and let you know what mine is. But, like I say, you can make it as wide as you want it to be. So mine is roughly 8 centimetres. Okay, so what we're going to do now is work back into this chain. We're going to chain 1 just to get a bit of height. We're going to ignore this chain that we've just done and we're going to come back to the second chain from the hook. I'm just going to go in the top loop and place a single crochet. I'm going to come down and go through every top loop of my chain and place 1 single crochet, and that should give me a grand total of 9 stitches. I'm pretty certain I did 9 chains, didn't I? And then 1 extra chain to get your height, but you skipped that one. You don't need to use that one. So I should have 9 stitches. Let's go in my last one. There we go. So we're now going to come back along here. We're going to chain 1, turn our work, ignore that chain, we're not using that. And now we're not going to go through all the stitches. I'm going to flip it so you can see it here, and we're just going to go in this back loop. We're not going to go through the front and the back, we're just going into the back loop with a single crochet. So 1 single crochet in every back loop. And that's going to give you a ridge for your ribbing. You just got to remember your little stitch count. Mine is 9. I don't count every single row, but sometimes I do have a little double check because it can be easy, you know, to miss one now and again. If your ribbon starts going a bit slanted, a bit short one end, double check that you've got the right amount of stitches. There we go. And then we're just going to keep repeating that. So chain 1, turn our work around, ignore the chain we've just done, and then go into the back loop only with a single crochet. 1 single crochet in every back loop. Let's get some more yarn. So we are going to keep repeating this until you are happy with the length of your ribbing. Now you might be like, how do I know when to stop? This needs to be able to go around your head so it's taut. You don't want it to be too loose. I like it to be quite snug. So when you put it around your head, you need to be able to stretch it so it's meeting in the middle. Because if you go too loose, over time I do find these stretch out anyway. Like I've made a load of hats last year using the same ribbing technique, and over time, because I literally lived in this hat every single day, it has stretched a little bit. So I do find it's good to keep it nice and tight. So we're just repeating this row over and over again. Chain 1, turn your work, single crochet in the back loop only of every single stitch. And I will meet you back here when you are happy with the length of your ribbon. And if you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, then just stay put and I will show you on the next scene. So I've been doing my ribbing. Doesn't that look so pretty? Now, how long you make it is also going to depend on what type of yarn you're using. Like when I've been using my hand spun yarn, I've been making mine a bit wider because it don't stretch as much. Whereas with the acrylic, I'm finding it stretches a lot more. Now I've gone to about 39-40 centimetres and my head circumference is 55 centimetres. I'm going to show you in the next section of this video how I put it around my head to see if I feel happy with it or not. And you can also seam it and then unpick it if it's too tight. So, right, let me show you what I do. Apologies if I'm a bit on the wonk. I've got a bit of a balancing act going on with my camera at the minute. Okay, so here is my ribbing. Ta-da! So what I do, I'm going to end up looking like Rambo or something, but I put it around the back of my head. As you can see, it comes to here if I just have it normally, but I stretch it, stretch and pull. And there we go. I wonder actually, now I've done this, I think I might add a couple more. I might add 2 more, I think. But yeah, stretch and pull. Do I add 2 more? I might add 1 more. I'm going to add 1 more row, I think, and then we're going to join it. And then you can try it on and see if it feels all right. And if it's too tight, then you can undo your join, add a few more rows. Feels a bit loose, undo your join, take away some rows. Simples. That's that advert, isn't it? Simples. What advert is that? The meerkat one? Simples. Okay, right. So I've added on 1 extra row. Now, there is a slight catch because I might have to alter this again. But because we are doing the granny stitch, we need our next round that we're going to put on to be dividable by 3. But because we're also making a cat ear beanie, we also need it to be an even number. So, you know, we're not asking too much, are we? It has to divide by 3 and be an even number. So, for example, it can't be 21, it can't be 27, it can't be 33, blah, 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 blah. It has to be an even number, like 36, 42. My mind can't go no higher at the minute because I'm terrible at maths. So, how do we do this, you ask? How on earth do we get an idea of how many stitches our next round's going to have? Well, I like to count my ridges. So each ridge is worth 2 stitches, in my opinion, because when I come to join it together and I go around with some single crochets, that's what we're going to be doing, I'm going to place 1 single crochet in the top of each row. So each ribbing ridge, that I like to call these bits here, are worth 2 stitches. Ha ha. So I just literally count those. You can either go 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 and times it by 2, or you can count up in 2s. So I have got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. Why am I struggling to count in 2s? 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 40. So I know already that 40 doesn't divide by 2. And the nearest, not divide by 2, sorry, divide by 3, the nearest one that does is actually 39. But 39 is an odd number. So I'm going to actually add a couple more onto the end of this. Try it on and see if it's all right. If it's not all right and I have to take them away, then I can I can actually like bodge my stitches a bit and put a couple, like 2 stitches in one gap if needs be. I know it's awkward, but that's what's happening, okay? Because it's made to measure and it's granny stitch. So let me just add on 2 more rows at the end, which will give me a stitch count of 42. And that is actually what I've been using for all of my hats in chunky hand spun yarn, that is. It's 42. That has actually been my stitch count. All right, one more. Yeah, it is a little awkward, I'm afraid, but if you end up with an odd number, you will not have an even seam, and your cat ears might be dodgy on one side. Well, you don't want a dodgy cat ear, do you? You want it to be nice and neat and even. All right, that's my 2 extra rows added on. So now we're going to seam our ribbing together. Okay, seaming is nice and easy. If you've used a crazy yarn which looks a bit different on each side, because that can happen, you can pick right now what side you want your ribbon to be. Mine's the same, so it really doesn't matter. But whatever way you fold it, your right sides will be touching. So once we've seamed, we will be turning this right side facing out. So keep that in mind. If you've got a speckled yarn and you're like, oh, I really like the way that looks more than that side, then fold your right sides together. So I'm literally just picking up my end here, folding it on top. It doesn't matter with mine because I've used one colour, and I've got my working yarn at the front just to make it a bit easier. So to seam, let me just take that out because that's got a bit twisted. All we're going to do is go through both stitches. If I call this the front and that the back, we're going to go through both stitches with a slip stitch. So I am just going to come into this very first stitch here at the front, under both loops, and then we're going into the chain. Well, when I did my chain, I went into 1 loop at the top, so I have got 2 loops to go through with my chain. If when you do your chain, you go under 2 loops rather than the one that I did, you'll just have 1 loop. Just in case you're looking and going, oh, I can't see 2 loops. That would be why. So we're going through the front and the back, and we're just going to do a slip stitch. Try to keep it loose because slip stitches can be quite tight and you don't really want to bring this section in, do you know what I mean? So through the front stitch, both loops, through the back stitch, both loops, slip stitch, a loose one. So repeat that all the way across, and I will meet you when we get to the end of seaming. Okay, so I've done my seaming. Let me just make a bit of a loop here. I'm not fastening off. I'm going to stick with the same colour. So I've got a little bit of a ridge going on here, and that's why we then have to flip it round. Like so. Hang on, let me do that a different way. So where's my working yarn? My working yarn is here. So if I flip this, oh, how do I do it again? Like that, that's it. So I've got my working yarn at the bottom, flip it like that, then you're still able to get your working yarn. Because if you do it the other way, which I do all the time, you then have to get your ball of yarn and like feed it through because your yarn is like going through the whole of the ribbon. Now what I suggest you do is try this on and make sure it feels comfortable. Remember what I said though, over time, when you're wearing it, it does tend to stretch a bit. So just keep that in mind. It might feel tight now, but if you live in it day in, day out, 6 months down the line, it might not be as tight. Mind you, you might own about 20 by then because these are so much fun to make. So try it on and then we'll do round 1. Okay, round 1. We are just going to be doing a round of single crochets, and this is where our stitch count really does come into play. So I had 42 rows. I'm hoping, if I do it right and place 1 stitch in the top of each row, that I will end up with 42 stitches at the end, because 42 divides by 3 and it is also an even number. and that is what you need. Now, if you end up with like 44, this is an example because you might not have the same stitch count as me, then just go back a few stitches and knock a couple off in like random places. It really does not matter. Just make sure that you have the correct stitch count. Either if you have to add stitches, a couple of stitches in, or take a couple away. That's fine, okay? Right, we're going to chain 1. And then we're just going to go straight down. So straight down around this first row, 1 single crochet. Around my next row, I've only got 1 bar for my next row, so I'm going to go around that one. That's 1 single crochet. Then I've got a bit of a lumpy ridge going on. So before that, there is also another row. That's my lumpy ridge. You can see this little gap here. I need to go in there. Bonk. Now I've come up to the second row, which is where I've only got 1 bar going across. So as long as you're alternating between where you've got a bit of a chunky bit to go through, and then the next one will be 1 bar, you know you're on the right track. So place 1 single crochet in the top of each row, but make sure that when you get to the end of the round, you have a stitch count that oh God, I can't get my words out right, that divides by 3 and is an even number. And I'll meet you back here when we get to the end of this round. Okay, I'm there. I've got 42 stitches. I think I must have miscalculated somewhere when I was counting my ribbon rows, because I did struggle to count in 2s. I added 2 extra rows on thinking that I needed to. And when I got to here, I still had two rows left. And I was on 42, so that'd have been 44. And I was like, what? So anyway, I've gone back and removed those 2 rows that I added onto my ribbing. And now I have 42 stitches, which is perfect because, like I said, it divides by 3 and it's an even number. So I'm going to come to the very first single crochet that I made at the beginning of the round and pop a slip stitch in there. And that is our base round. I'm going to call it round 1. Ta-da! Again, try it on to make sure you're happy with it. I'm happy with mine. I'm going to stick with the same colour for now, and then I'm going to move on to pink, I think. Pink, I think. Okay, granny stitch round. So this round, we're going to work on the right side again, but after we've done this round, we will be turning our work because it will keep our seam in a straight line. We don't want a diagonal seam. We want a nice straight seam. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, which classes as a double crochet. We're going to pop 2 more double crochets back into the same stitch so that we have a 3 double crochet cluster, like so. And then we're going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then in the 3rd stitch we're going to place 3 double crochets, all in that same stitch. And then we're just going to repeat that all the way around. So skip 2, 1, 2, 3 double crochets in the next stitch after that. I'll do it one more time. Skip the next 2, 1, 2, and then put 3 double crochets in the next stitch. So repeat that all the way around, and when you get near the end of your round, you should have 2 stitches left that need skipping. Right. I'll meet you back here in a bit. So I'm at the end of my round. Luckily, I have 2 stitches remaining, which is good. So I'm just going to skip over those, and then I'm going to come to the top of my chain 3 from the beginning of the round and place a slip stitch in there to close it up. So that was round 2. Right, round 3, this is where we're going to be turning our work from here on out. So we're going to be repeating round 3 until we've finished the hat, basically, until we're happy with the length of it. So we're going to chain 3, which is going to class as your first double, turn your work around, and then you're going to come straight into the gap underneath and place 2 double crochets. 1, 2. And now we're just going to skip the 3 doubles and go in all the gaps between the 3 doubles with 3 double crochets. I love the granny stitch. It's something that you can do. Oh, so rude. Don't play me up. It's something that you can do while watching the telly, you know. You're not going in stitches, you're just feeling for gaps. I love it. It's my go-to stitch when we're binge watching. Look, I keep saying that and then I keep going wrong. I keep losing my yarn. That is just so ridiculous. Goodness gracious. So yeah, 3 double crochets in all the gaps between the 3 doubles from the previous round. And I'll meet you back here when you get to the end of the round. So I have no more gaps left to go in. I've come to the beginning of the round, so I'm going to do what I just did and place a slip stitch in the top of the chain 3 from the beginning of the round. There we go. So you're just going to keep repeating round 3. That was chain 3. Oops, Daisy, I keep them and oh, what am I doing? Stop being naughty. Chain 3, turn your work, and then place 2 double crochets back into the bottom of this gap. Blop, 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 blop. But I am actually going to change colour. So I'm just going to quickly show you what I do when I change colour. So let me just pull that out. I'm just going to fasten off like so. And just put a little knot in that to keep it secure. So even though I'm changing colour, I am still going to keep turning my work to help with the continuity of the pattern and the stitches. I'm going with pink next. Love a little pink and red combo. So I'm just going to join it in with a slip stitch in the same gap that I would have gone in. So if I turn it back round, this is where I finished. This is the gap that I would have gone in. Is it? Let me just double check. Chain 3. Yeah, that is the gap. So I'm going to go in that same gap. Listen to me. Is that gap? Is it that gap? Yes, it is that gap. Oh my goodness gracious me. Okay, so I'm just going to join my yarn in with a slip stitch, chain 3, and then put 2 double crochets back into that gap. I'm going to be doing 2 rows of red, 2 rows of pink, and alternating between them. So here we go, putting 3 doubles in all the gaps between the 3 double crochets from the previous round. So I will timestamp round 3 anyway, so you can go back and re-watch it if you need to. But that's the round that we're going to keep repeating until you're happy with the length of your hat. Now you might be like, how do I know how happy I am with the length? What you need to do is try it on and be able to comfortably pinch the top of it closed around the top of your head. Again, if you're like, oh, I'm not quite sure what you mean, I will be showing you a visual representation of that in a little while. So I will meet you back here, basically once my hat is pretty much done, apart from seaming, and I'm happy with the length. So yeah, I'll meet you back here very soon. Okay, so I've been adding rounds to my hat. I've still got my yarn attached at the minute. You need to keep that on because we're going to be using that to seam it up. So I've just been adding rounds and I'm happy with the length that it's at right now. I wanted to end it in red, so I ended up popping an extra red on the top. So I've got 3 rounds of red at the top, but that's all right. So when you try it on, I'm probably going to look absolutely crazy. I'm just going to slip it over like so. I mean, do I look cool? So what you're going to do is just get the top and pinch it. And if you can easily close it, it's a bit, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? If you can easily close it over the top of your head and it doesn't feel crazy tight, then that's where you need to stop, basically. And if you seam it and you think, do you know what, that is actually a bit tight or it's a bit big, make sure you don't fasten off after seaming and you try it on. Do you know what I mean? It's just a few stitches, that's it. So yeah, as you can see, the cat ears are starting to form. All we're doing is going to seam it in a straight line. So let's do it. I'll also tell you as well in a minute how long I've made mine. I'll measure it so you've got like a rough guide to aim for if you're like, oh, I don't know. So, seaming. I look quite crazy. Okay, so seaming. First things first, we need to turn our hat so it's inside out. You're now going to see that I haven't weaved in any ends. Now, normally that's not what I do. I normally weave them in as I go. So, hang on, how are we doing this again? So I ain't got to feed all this through. Right, turn it upside down. And then turn it inside out. And then your working yarn is still here. Because like I said before, if you do it the other way round, you're then going to have to feed your ball of yarn through and out the other side. Look at all these ends. Oh, it's not going to be that bad. It's not going to be that bad. Okay, right, seaming. So my working yarn is right here, like so. So this is going to be my first corner. So what we need to do now, if I just zoom in a tiny little bit, is line up our granny stitches. So we're working in sets of 3 double crochets, so we've just got to line them up. So this is going to become the front. This is going to become the back, and all we're going to do is like pinch it together, line our stitches up and seam all the way across. So I've got this here, which is my first set of 3 doubles. I've just got to line it up with those ones. If you wanted to, you could use some stitch markers and pop them in the gaps to keep it in place, but it's only a little thing, so I'm not going to bother doing that. So what you're going to end up is with one seam going down one side, but because it's the granny stitch, you aren't really going to notice it. Well, I don't think you are anyway. Okay, so what we're going to do, let me get my yarn ready. Just pull that tight. Oh, I'm twisted. So I'm going to go through my very first stitch, which is the first stitch of the set of 3 double crochets. So what I'm going to do is a slip stitch seam, but I'm going to do it so it's nice and loose, just like when we did the ribbon. You don't want to pull it too tight, otherwise it's going to be a bit wonky and your ears are going to look a little funky. So we've got to make sure we keep a nice loose tension. So now I've come to the back. I'm going to find the very first single crochet, which is here. My yarn is actually in that already, but that's okay. So I'm just going to go through front and back, and we're going to do a slip stitch, but remember to keep it loose. Don't pull it tight. Now I'm going to move on to the second stitch on the front, which is my second double crochet along. Come to the back and go in the second double crochet along and do a loose slip stitch. Like so. And now I'm coming to the next stitch, which is my third double crochet along, and then on the back another third double crochet along. And that's a good way to keep looking at it so you know that you're on track and you haven't missed out any stitches. All 3 sets of your double crochets are lining up front and back. So just keep doing that all the way across, keeping it nice and loose, remember. Don't pull it tight. And I'll meet you back here when we get near the end of, well, I was going to say the row, but kind of is a row. When we get to this end, I'll meet you back here. So I've been working my way across. I am now up to my last cluster. Oh, hang on, I've got one more stitch left on this one. Didn't even notice that. Let me just get a bit more yarn. So I'm now on my last cluster of 3 double crochets. So this is where it can get a little bit tricky towards the end, is placing that last stitch. So if you wanted to, good tip to finding that last stitch is to put a stitch marker through it before you get too close to it. Because remember, we're trying to keep a nice loose tension. You don't really want to be tugging on it, trying to find that final stitch. So I'm going to find it on here. So I've got 1, 2, 3. There's that one. I'm going to pop that in there. And if I come to the back and go 1, 2, 3, I can see the top of the stitch right there, nice and easy. So I'm just going to pop that in there, and that's where I need to put my stitch marker, not my stitch marker, my hook for my final stitch. You don't have to do that, but that last seaming stitch can be a little tricky to find. Right, I've got 3 stitches left to go, so let me go in this one in the front, and then in the back. 1. Oh, I've not gone through both loops. 2, and then my final one is going right where I've put this stitch marker, so that's just made it super duper easy for me to just slide that straight through, and I know that I am in the correct spot for that. And there we go. I am not going to fasten off just yet because, like I said, definitely try your hat on before you fasten off, because if you think it's too big, then you can take away that last round that you did. If you think it's too small, you can then unseam it and add another round. So I'm going to try mine on. And if it's done, it's done. And then you just need to fasten off and weave in your ends and turn it the right way around and then walk around being like, yes, this is awesome. I've made myself the coolest hat. So hopefully the next time you see me, I'm going to be wearing it. So I'm all done. I've been ever so good. I've weaved in all my ends, and then I've just turned my hat back the right way round, plugged it on my head, pokey out my little ears. I look like a horny little devil. Oh no, I didn't mean it like I didn't mean it like that. I don't know why I said horny. Well, I suppose because they've got horns, haven't they? Well, do you know what? Whatever. I'm just digging a hole now. It's a cat. It's not a devil. Just because it's red. Whatever. Anyway, I just want to say a massive thank you for joining me for another tutorial, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!